The mine was dark, cold, and endless. Dust clung to everything, covering the jagged walls. The alien girl, Lyra, knelt on the hard ground, her small hands gripping a rusty shovel. She had been digging here for years, chained to the same spot, her body weak and aching. Every sound echoed, every scream of other slaves made her flinch, but she could not cry, not even once, not after what happened before. The overseer shouted from above, his voice like fire, "Faster, or face the pit!" Lyra's heart pounded. She forced her body to move, scooping the dark crystals into her small sack. The crystals sparkled faintly, mocking her with their beauty. Every swing of the shovel felt heavier than the last. Her back burned, her hands bled, but she could not stop. Stopping meant punishment, and punishment meant pain worse than she could imagine. She remembered the first day she arrived here, a child stolen from her home. Thrown into this mine with strangers, beaten when she cried, left to dig for hours under the cruel sun and the harsh rocks. Lyra shivered at the memory. The chains had left scars across her wrists, a reminder of the life she never wanted. The other slaves avoided looking at her, some too broken to speak, some already silent forever. Today was worse than usual. The overseer had noticed she was slower. "Lazy girl, move faster," he screamed. His clawed hands slammed onto the metal walls, shaking the stones. Dust fell like rain onto Lyra, blinding her. Her small voice caught in her throat, but she whispered to herself, "I must survive. Just survive." Suddenly, a rumble shook the mine. Small rocks fell from the ceiling. The slaves screamed and ducked, fearing collapse. But Lyra stayed frozen, her eyes searching the shadows. Something different was happening, something she could not name. A distant light flashed for a second, too bright to be from the ceiling lamps. She blinked and stared, her heart racing. "What was that?" she whispered. The sound of footsteps echoed, heavier than before. But these were not the guards. They moved with purpose, slow but careful. The other slaves did not notice, too afraid to look up. Lyra's chest tightened. She wanted to hide, yet something inside her stirred, a tiny spark of hope she had not felt in years. The footsteps came closer, and she felt a hand gently touch her shoulder, startling her. She froze, expecting punishment, but instead a calm voice whispered, "Do not be afraid. I am here to help." Lyra's eyes widened. She could not believe it. No human had ever entered the mine to save anyone, not even the weak or sick. Her mind raced, asking herself if it was a trick. But the tone was gentle, honest, and different. She swallowed hard, the fear fighting with curiosity. Could this really be the escape she had dreamed about? The overseer shouted again, angry at the movement. "What is happening there? Get back to work!" Lyra's hands trembled, the shovel heavy in her grip. The mysterious presence seemed closer now, a shadow among the darkness, watching, waiting, ready. Her heart thumped so fast it hurt. Her body wanted to run, but her chains held her, reminding her of reality. Lyra took a deep breath, whispering softly to herself, Maybe someone can save me." The rumble faded, the light disappeared. But the feeling remained, that small spark, that tiny hope, something long forgotten. She swung the shovel one last time, faster, with more determination than ever. Each strike against the crystal was like a promise, a silent vow to survive. The mine was dark, the pain real, but in her heart, a whisper of freedom had begun, and somewhere in the shadows, the stranger waited, ready to change her life forever. Lyra's heart was still racing from the strange light in the mine. Her small hands clutched the rusty shovel tightly, her body aching. The overseer's voice thundered above, but she barely heard it. Her mind was focused on the shadow she had seen, the calm voice that promised help. She dared not hope too much, yet a tiny flame of curiosity flickered inside her. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed through the tunnels. Footsteps on stone, careful, deliberate. Different from the heavy boots of the guards, lighter but strong. Lyra froze, trying to control her breathing. She hugged herself, afraid that even a tiny movement might alert the overseer. But the footsteps came closer, and the voice spoke again, low and kind. "Lyra, I am here to take you out." Lyra's eyes widened. Disbelief and fear battled inside her. She had never heard anyone say her name with such warmth. A human? Here? To save her? The words felt unreal, impossible, yet hope tugged at her chest. She wanted to run, but the chains around her wrists held her in place, reminding her of every cruel lesson she had learned in the mine. The shadow appeared at the edge of the light, tall, covered in strange armor, but the helmet was off, revealing a human face. Gentle eyes, calm expression, no sign of cruelty. No chains, no weapons aimed at her, just presence. Lyra took a hesitant step back, her voice caught in her throat. Who are you?" she whispered. "I am Kael," the human replied softly, kneeling to lower himself to her level. "I am here to help you. You do not have to stay here anymore." His voice was steady, warm, like sunlight cutting through the darkness. Lyra's mind screamed danger, but her heart wanted to believe him. The other slaves whispered and cowered, too afraid to even peek. But Lyra's eyes followed him, scanning every movement. Kael pointed to a narrow tunnel behind him, hidden in shadow. "This is a secret way out. Follow me carefully." He gestured without touching her, respecting her fear. Lyra hesitated, glancing at the overseer pacing above, yelling orders. The sound of boots and metal clanging made her stomach twist. If she moved too soon, they would notice, and the punishment would be cruel. The air smelled of dust and fear, yet the faint breeze from the hidden tunnel promised something new, something unknown. Lyra's small fingers trembled as she released the shovel, letting it drop with a soft clang. Kael nodded, encouraging. "Trust me. One step at a time." Slowly, carefully, Lyra moved toward him, each step measured, chains rattling softly against the rock. Her heart beat so loud she was sure it would be heard. Every nerve screamed to run back, yet curiosity, and something else, pushed her forward. A sudden shout from the overseer made Lyra freeze. The human grabbed her hand quickly, but gently, pulling her into the shadow of the hidden tunnel. Dust fell around them as they slipped into darkness. The sounds of the mine faded behind, replaced by dripping water and soft echoes. Lyra's chest heaved, fear and relief mixing together. She glanced up at Kael, and for the first time in years, her lips trembled with a whisper. "You can really save me?" Kael smiled faintly, a promise in his eyes. "I will do everything I can, but you must follow me and be brave." Lyra nodded, unsure if she could, unsure if she even wanted to. But something deep inside, buried under years of pain and chains, told her this was her only chance. The suspense of the unknown, the darkness of the mine, and the glimmer of hope filled the air. Every step forward felt like a choice between life and death, and as they moved deeper into the hidden tunnel, Lyra realized the first step of freedom had begun, something she never thought possible in the mine. The hidden tunnel smelled damp and cold, water dripping from the walls, forming small puddles on the uneven ground. Lyra's bare feet slipped slightly as she followed Kael, her chains clinking softly with every step. She kept her eyes on him, her small body tense, unsure if the shadows hid danger or salvation. The light from his hand device cut through the darkness, faint but enough to guide her. Kael moved carefully, stopping often to listen, his ears twitching slightly, his eyes scanning every corner. "Stay close," he whispered, "and move quietly." Lyra nodded, fear gripping her chest, but the strange calm in Kael's voice made her take another step forward. The tunnel twisted and turned, narrow and uneven, forcing them to duck under jagged rocks, sometimes crawling, sometimes climbing over debris. Every movement made her muscles ache, but she did not stop. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the tunnel, making the stones tremble. Lyra froze, her breath catching in her throat. "What was that?" she whispered. Kael's hand touched her shoulder lightly, steadying her. "Just the mind settling. It happens often. But keep moving." His words were calm, but his eyes scanned the darkness, alert, ready for anything. The sound of distant guards, shouting orders, reached their ears, sending a chill through Lyra. She clenched her fists, gripping the rough walls for balance, every nerve on edge. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, the air cooler, the walls lined with old, abandoned mining carts. Rusty tools lay scattered across the floor, forgotten long ago. Kael paused, crouching behind a pile of rocks. "We need to rest for a moment. The guards will check the other tunnels soon." Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted, her legs shaking. Her small chest heaved as she tried to control her breathing, every sound magnified in the eerie silence. Kael handed her a small, sealed pod, a cage of food and water. "Eat, it will give you strength." Lyra hesitated, then tore it open, her fingers trembling. The simple bread and water tasted like freedom itself, nourishing her body, yet she kept glancing at the shadows, afraid of being caught. Kael watched her carefully, his presence calm, yet ready to act. He said nothing, letting her regain her strength silently, the trust between them growing in small, quiet ways. Suddenly, a faint, scraping sound echoed from the far end of the chamber. Lyra stiffened. Kael's hand moved instinctively to a small device at his belt, ready to defend. The sound came again, slower, deliberate. Someone, or something, was approaching. Lyra's heart raced, every instinct screaming to run. Kael held up a finger, signaling silence, his eyes locked on the darkness, every muscle tense, ready to move. A shadow appeared at the far tunnel entrance, hesitating, scanning the chamber. Lyra's breath caught, her body frozen. The figure moved closer, unaware of their hiding spot. Kael's grip on her hand tightened. "Stay calm," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The shadow paused, sniffing the air, then slowly moved away down the other tunnel, and Lyra exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding. "We have to keep going," Kael said softly, rising to his feet. "The path ahead is dangerous, but it will take us out of this mine." Lyra nodded, her fear still there, but mixed now with a spark of determination. She followed him into the darkness, every step forward a small act of courage. The mine felt alive around them, breathing, watching, testing them, yet something inside Lyra had changed. She realized that for the first time in years, she was not alone, and maybe, just maybe, she could escape. The tunnel twisted again, darker and narrower, but Kael's hand stayed close, guiding, protecting. Lyra's heart felt heavy with fear, but light with hope. The secret passage was dangerous, unknown, yet it was freedom in disguise, and with every careful step, she moved closer to a life she never imagined possible. The tunnel opened into a narrow canyon bathed in pale sunlight. Dusty beams cut through the darkness like fingers, and Lyra blinked, her eyes unaccustomed to the light. She had not seen sunlight in years, not since she had been dragged from her home, her small hands trembling as she stepped forward. Kael stayed close, his eyes scanning every rock and shadow, ready to defend her. Lyra's chains had been loosened by Kael before they entered the canyon, but the marks on her wrists still burned, a reminder of the years she had suffered. She touched them lightly, as if expecting them to vanish, but the pain was real, the past still clinging to her. Her small body moved cautiously, unsure if freedom was real or just a cruel trick. Birds chirped somewhere above, a sound she almost did not recognize. The wind rustled through dry grass, carrying scents she had forgotten. Earth, flowers, water, life itself seemed strange and new, and for the first time she allowed herself to breathe deeply, to feel. Kael noticed her hesitation and whispered, "It is safe, for now, but we must keep moving." Lyra nodded, her legs weak but willing. She followed him along the rocky path, every step forward an act of courage. Every sound in the canyon made her flinch. The snap of a twig, the rustle of a lizard, her senses sharpened by years of fear. Yet with Kyle beside her, she felt something she had never known. Trust. They stopped near a small stream, water sparkling under the sunlight. Kyle knelt and cupped his hands, letting Lyra drink first. The cold water burned pleasantly in her throat, refreshing her body. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling a strange warmth in her chest, not just from the water, but from the realization that she was alive, truly alive, and for the first time free to make choices. Kyle studied her quietly, his presence calm and reassuring. "You've been through much," he said softly, "but today you begin to live, not just survive." Lyra's lips trembled, a tear sliding down her dusty cheek. She wanted to speak, but no words came. Her throat tight with emotion, she nodded silently, letting the sunlight and the wind carry her fears away. The canyon stretched before them, narrow paths twisting between jagged rocks, but freedom was not without danger. Kale's eyes constantly scanned the horizon, alert. His hand brushed against hers, gentle, protective, a silent promise of safety. Lyra's small hand almost froze at the contact, yet she allowed it, something in her responding to his courage, something in her heart daring to hope. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the far side of the canyon, sharp and quick. Lyra stiffened, fear rushing back. Kale's hand tightened around hers. "It's a patrol. We must hide," he whispered, leading her behind a boulder. Every nerve in Lyra's body screamed to run, but she obeyed, crouching low, silent as a mouse. The shadow passed, unaware of them, and Lyra exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. "You see," Kyle said quietly, "even out here, danger exists, but you are learning to survive in freedom." Lyra looked at him, her small face dirty and bruised, yet alive with curiosity and caution. She wanted to ask questions, to demand explanations, yet words seemed too heavy. She only nodded, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. For the first time in years, Lyra saw the world as it could be, not just as the place of pain she had known. The wind whispered through the canyon, carrying with it the promise of life beyond the mine, beyond pain, beyond chains, beyond everything she had ever feared. And as they moved along the rocky path, Kale guiding her, Lyra realized that freedom was not just a place, it was a choice, and she was choosing it, step by careful step. The forest seemed endless, tall trees stretching like silent guards above them. Lyra's small feet moved quickly over roots and rocks, her heart pounding not just from running but from memories that refused to stay buried. Every shadow felt alive, whispering the pain of years spent in chains, the cruelty of the mine, and the cold eyes of the overseers. Kale's presence beside her was steady, grounding, yet he could not erase the past from her mind. "Lyra, look here," Kale whispered, pointing to a narrow path that led deeper into the forest. "We can rest soon, but we must keep moving." She nodded, her throat tight, fear and anticipation mixing in a bitter taste. She wanted freedom, yet the thought of what she had endured clawed at her, making her wonder if she could ever truly escape the shadows that followed her. A sudden rustle behind a bush made Lyra freeze, her chest tightening, memories of guards chasing her, the sharp clanging of chains, the cruel laughter echoing through the mine, flooded back. She pressed herself against a tree, trying to control her breathing. Kale's hand rested on her shoulder, calm but firm. "It's just the wind, or an animal, not the mine," he said softly. But Lyra's eyes darted to every moving shadow, unsure. As they walked, Lyra's mind drifted to the other slaves, the faces she would never forget, the children who had cried in the dark, the mothers who had begged and failed. Her stomach twisted with guilt, sorrow, and anger. "Why did I survive?" she whispered, barely audible. "Why me?" Kale's eyes softened. "Because you were meant for something more, Lyra. But we cannot look back. Not now." They came to a small clearing, the sunlight streaming down, dancing on the leaves. Kale motioned for her to sit beside a fallen log. Rest, just for a moment, he said, handing her a small bundle of dried fruit and water. Lyra's fingers shook as she too ate it, her stomach rumbling from hunger and nerves. She ate slowly, her eyes scanning the forest for any threat, every sound reminding her of the mine. But then, from the shadows, a faint glimmer of something familiar caught her attention. A piece of metal, a tool, a memory. It made her pause, her hand freezing mid-bite. Her mind flashed with images of the mine tunnels, the screams, the darkness, the smell of dust and blood. She swallowed hard, trying to push it away, but the past was stubborn, refusing to let her go. Kael knelt beside her, following her gaze. Lyra, you cannot carry it all alone. Not now, not ever. He reached out, but did not touch her, letting her control the space. Lyra nodded slowly, a tear escaping down her cheek. The forest seemed to lean in, listening, waiting as if it understood her struggle. The past was heavy, but the present offered her a choice, a path forward. Suddenly, a distant shout broke the quiet, sharp and urgent. The sound made Lyra flinch, her chains in memory clanging loudly in her mind. Kael grabbed her hand, pulling her to her feet. They've sent searchers. We must move now. Lyra's pulse raced, her legs trembling, but she obeyed, fear and adrenaline driving her forward. The forest, once a promise of freedom, now felt like a maze filled with dangers both real and imagined. As they ran, Lyra glanced at Kael, trust and fear intertwined in her eyes. She realized that facing the shadows of the past was harder than any chains, any overseer. But she could try. She could survive because for the first time someone had chosen to fight with her, not against her. And the forest, wild and alive, became not just a path to escape, but a battlefield for her courage, her hope, her life. The forest grew darker as evening fell, long shadows stretching across the ground. Lyra's heart beat fast, every sound magnified. Twigs snapped underfoot, leaves rustled in the wind, and her nerves tightened with each step. Kael stayed close, his hand brushing against hers occasionally, a silent reminder that she was not alone. Her small body shivered, partly from cold, partly from fear, partly from anticipation of what lay ahead. A soft glow appeared through the trees, orange and flickering, like firelight, warm and inviting, yet strange in this wild place. Lyra's eyes widened, unsure if it was friend or foe. Kael motioned for her to stay low, crouching behind a thick tree. Something is there, he whispered, his eyes scanning the shadows, every muscle tense. Lyra's throat was dry, her fingers gripping the rough bark of the tree, trying to steady herself. Slowly, a figure emerged from the light, tall and cautious, holding a strange tool in hand. Its eyes reflected the firelight, bright and curious, not cruel, not threatening. Lyra held her breath, her chest tight, remembering the mine, the guards, the beatings, the fear. Kael's presence was her anchor, and yet she felt a strange pull toward this figure, something human, something familiar, yet unknown. The figure stopped, scanning the trees, then knelt, looking toward the stream nearby. Hello? The voice was soft, careful, almost gentle. Lyra flinched, the sound cutting through the tension like a knife. She wanted to run, to hide, but Kael's hand on her shoulder held her still, his eyes telling her to stay calm. The figure moved slowly, stepping into a small clearing, firelight illuminating the face, revealing kindness in the eyes. Kael whispered, "Don't be afraid, Lyra, it's not one of them." Her legs shook, but she nodded, letting him guide her out from behind the tree. Every step toward the stranger felt HFY, every memory of pain weighing her down. Yet there was something in the way the stranger moved, careful, respectful, that made her take another step. The firelight reflected off the stranger's armor, strange and different from what she had seen in the mines. "Are you alone?" the stranger asked, voice gentle, scanning the trees for threats. Lyra shook her head, glancing at Kale, who nodded slightly, signaling her to speak if she could. We escaped," she whispered, her voice trembling. "From the mine." The stranger's eyes softened, kneeling lower to meet her gaze. "You're safe now," he said. "No one will hurt you here." Lyra's heart fluttered, hope mixing with fear, trust fighting with years of pain. Kyle stepped forward, speaking quietly. "We need shelter, just for the night, and guidance out of these woods." The stranger nodded, gesturing toward a small path hidden by trees. "Follow me, but stay quiet. The forest is not empty." Lyra took a deep breath, her small hands clutching Kale's arm, every nerve alert, every sense alive, yet for the first time she felt the possibility of safety. As they moved through the trees, Lyra glanced at the fire fading behind them, the figure guiding them with calm confidence. She realized that even in the midst of danger, humans could be allies, protectors, even saviors. The forest, once frightening, now held a glimmer of hope, and the first encounter with another being outside the mine promised a future she had never dared to imagine. The stranger led them through narrow paths, branches brushing against Lyra's face, roots tangling her small feet. Each step felt cautious, calculated, as if the forest itself watched their every move. Kyle stayed close, glancing back often, making sure Lyra followed, her hands trembling, her mind racing. Memories of the mine whispered behind her, shadows chasing her even in the light. After what felt like hours, they reached a small clearing hidden by thick bushes and towering pines. The stranger stopped, kneeling beside a low stone wall partially covered with moss. "This is safe," he said, voice low. "Just for the night." Lyra's eyes scanned the camp, curious, cautious, and amazed. Tents made of sturdy cloth, small fire pits carefully built, and stacks of dried food and supplies gave the place a feeling of warmth and security. Lyra wanted to run forward, to touch, to explore, to taste freedom fully. But Kyle held her hand, steadying her. "Wait," he whispered. "Observe first. Understand first." She nodded, swallowing her fear and awe. The stranger motioned for them to follow him to the largest tent, its entrance flap tied back, inviting but careful, as if secrets and safety lived within. Inside the tent, the air was warm, smelling of herbs and smoke. Small lanterns cast a soft glow. Lyra's eyes darted around, taking in every detail, her chest still tight with fear and wonder. "You can rest here," the stranger said, kneeling to meet her eyes. "We'll make sure no one harms you tonight." Lyra nodded, still unsure if she could trust so easily, the past of cruelty and pain tugging at her mind. Kale set a small bundle of blankets on the floor, and Lyra sank onto them, the weight of exhaustion finally hitting her. Her body shook, not from cold, but from the release of tension she had carried for years. The stranger prepared a small meal, offering it to her gently. "Eat," he said. "You need strength." Lyra hesitated, then slowly took the food, tasting life for the first time outside the mine. As she ate, she glanced around the camp, noticing movement in the shadows, others who watched quietly, yet their faces were kind, welcoming, not threatening. It was a strange feeling to be among humans who did not want to hurt her. Lyra's hands trembled as she realized the world could be different, safe, alive, even beautiful. Suddenly, the wind carried a distant sound, faint but clear, like footsteps or perhaps voices. Lyra froze, her mind flashing to the guards in the mine, the fear clawing back. Kale placed his hand on hers, firm and grounding. "Nothing can reach us here tonight," he whispered. "We are careful, prepared, and together." Lyra's chest eased slightly, her trust growing, fragile but real. The stranger returned, sitting beside them. "You are safe to rest. But tomorrow we must move again. he said, eyes serious but kind. Lyra nodded, wrapping the blankets tighter around her small frame, exhaustion battling the lingering fear. Her mind replayed the journey so far, the mine, the escape, the forest, the first encounter, and now this hidden camp, a sanctuary in a dangerous world. As night deepened, Lyra felt her eyes grow heavy, the firelight flickering across the tent walls, shadows dancing but no longer frightening. Kael's steady presence and the stranger's calm protection gave her courage. Her past still whispered, but for the first time, it seemed distant, less powerful, and the future felt possible. The hidden camp was not just a place to rest, it was a promise, a small spark of hope that survival could become more than just enduring, it could become living. The first light of dawn filtered through the tall pines, painting the camp in pale gold. Lyra stirred under her blankets, the warmth of the hidden camp comforting, yet a shiver ran down her spine. Memories of the mine still whispering in her mind. Kael had already risen, scanning the trees, his expression serious, alert, like a guardian ready for danger. Lyra tried to eat, but her stomach churned, nerves and fear mingling. She could not forget the guards, the overseers, the cruelty that had marked every day of her past. Kael noticed and placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We are ready for anything, Lyra, but we must stay calm," he said softly. She nodded, drawing strength from his presence, yet anxiety clawed at her chest. Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush caught their attention, sharp and unnatural. Lyra's breath caught, memories of chains and screams flooding back. The stranger from last night appeared at the tent entrance, eyes sharp, scanning. "Movement. Someone is coming," he said quietly, voice tense but controlled. Kael quickly pulled Lyra behind a low wall of rocks, crouching, his hand gripping hers firmly. Through the trees, shadows moved with intent, silent and fast. Lyra's heart pounded, fear making her ears ring. She recognized the shape, the posture, the cruel certainty. Searchers from the mines, sent to recapture what had escaped. Kael whispered, "Stay low, stay quiet, and trust me." Lyra nodded, trembling. Her small body pressed flat against the cold ground. The first figure stepped into the clearing, eyes scanning, hand gripping a weapon. Lyra's pulse raced, her stomach twisted. She wanted to run, to hide, yet she remained frozen with fear and hope intertwined. Kael shifted slightly, signaling her to stay hidden. He studied the searchers, noting their numbers, movements, and weaknesses, every second critical. One searcher crouched near the fire, sniffing the air. Another moved along the perimeter, careful and methodical. Lyra realized they were close to discovering the hidden camp. Her mind raced for escape, for options, for a miracle. Kael whispered a plan, pointing toward a narrow path leading out through thick undergrowth. "We can slip past if we move now," he said, steady but urgent. Lyra's hands shook as she rose slowly, Kael at her side, the stranger guiding them silently. The forest seemed to hold its breath, every twig and leaf a potential betrayer. The searchers paused, alert, sniffing, listening, their footsteps cautious, and Lyra's heart felt as if it would burst from her chest. They moved inch by inch, shadows clinging to them like ghosts. Lyra's legs felt weak, yet she followed, trusting Kael and the stranger. Each step was tense, every sound threatening, yet they pressed on, driven by the desire for freedom. Kael led them to a small ravine hidden behind thick trees, the perfect place to pause and hide. From their new hiding spot, Lyra could see the searchers moving past, frustrated, unable to locate the camp. Her chest heaved, relief and fear mixing. She realized how close danger had come and how fragile their escape was. Kael squeezed her hand, a silent promise of protection. The stranger smiled faintly. "We are not safe yet, but we have survived this encounter." Lyra nodded, a spark of courage lighting her eyes. As the shadows of the searchers faded, Lyra finally allowed herself to breathe. The forest, wild and alive, felt both dangerous and protective. She understood now that freedom came with constant vigilance, but for the first time, she felt powerful, capable of surviving, capable of hope. and capable of a future beyond the mine. The forest was quiet after the searchers had gone, but Lyra's heart still raced, her small body trembling from the adrenaline and fear. She pressed herself against Kale, seeking comfort and courage. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the call of distant birds, kept her alert. Yet for the first time, she felt a flicker of safety, fragile but real. Kale guided her to a small stream, its water clear and cold, trickling over smooth stones. Lyra knelt, cupping her hands, letting the water run over her fingers, the simple act soothing her nerves. The stranger watched silently, vigilant, eyes scanning the surrounding forest, ready to act at the first sign of danger. Lyra noticed how careful and calm he was, and for the first time, she felt trust growing inside her. They walked slowly along the stream, careful not to make noise. Lyra's stomach grumbled, a reminder of the nights she had spent hungry in the mines. Kyle offered her a small piece of bread from his pack, and she took it with trembling hands. Savoring the taste, the stranger spoke softly. "We will find a safe place soon, where you can rest, learn, and heal." Lyra's eyes widened, hope and disbelief mixing. She had dreamed of safety before, but it had always been snatched away. As they moved deeper into the forest, they came across a small clearing bathed in sunlight, golden beams breaking through the trees. Lyra's heart lifted at the sight, for it was beautiful and peaceful, unlike anything she had ever seen. She stepped lightly, the soft grass beneath her feet feeling strange and wonderful. Kale smiled, a rare expression of warmth that made her feel protected. The stranger set up a small camp near the clearing, with simple tents and a fire pit. Lyra watched, fascinated and cautious, every movement deliberate and calm. She finally sat on a soft patch of moss, feeling the weight of exhaustion wash over her. Kyle Sci stood beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. "You are safe here, at least for now," he said quietly. Lyra nodded, letting herself believe, even if just a little. That night, as stars appeared in the clear sky, Lyra lay wrapped in a warm blanket, staring up through the trees. The forest was alive with sounds, but none were threatening, and for the first time in years, she could imagine a life beyond pain. She whispered softly, "Could this be real?" Kyle tightened his hand around hers. "It is real, Lyra, and it's yours if you keep moving forward." The stranger approached, carrying a small bowl of food and water. "You are stronger than you think," he said, kneeling beside her, "and you will need that strength soon." Lyra's stomach tightened, the warning in his voice reminding her that danger still existed, yet she felt courage growing alongside fear. The past of the mine haunted her, but it was no longer the center of her world. The present offered a fragile hope. Lyra looked around at the camp, at Kyle, at the stranger, and felt a strange warmth she had never known. Safety, even temporary, felt magical, like a light in the darkness. She realized that trust was possible, that humans could protect, and that she could survive without fear controlling every step. The fragile hope inside her grew stronger with each passing moment, delicate, yet unstoppable. She closed her eyes that night, letting the warmth of the fire and the presence of her protectors lull her into sleep. For the first time, Lyra dreamed not of escape, not of pain, but of a future, uncertain, yet full of possibility. And as the forest whispered around her, she felt the fragile hope take root, ready to grow. The morning sun broke through the trees, casting golden light over the hidden camp. Lyra stretched slowly, her muscles stiff but alive with energy she had not felt in years. The forest no longer seemed threatening, its shadows soft and comforting. She looked at Kyle and the stranger, both awake and preparing for the day, their calm presence giving her courage. Kyle handed her a small piece of bread and a flask of water. "Eat, Lyra, you need strength," he said, smiling gently. She took it with shaky hands, savoring each bite. For the first time in her life, she did not have to steal or fear, her needs met with kindness rather than force. The stranger packed supplies silently, his eyes always scanning the forest, a reminder that safety was precious. "Today," he said quietly, kneeling to meet Lyra's gaze, "we leave this place, and you step into a new life." Lyra blinked, her heart racing. She had dreamed of freedom, but it always felt impossible. Now, it was real, standing before her, waiting to be taken. Kale placed a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "You are ready," he whispered. "You have survived everything. And now you can live." They walked through the forest carefully, following the stranger's path, every step measured, yet lighter than before. Lyra's small feet barely made a sound, and her mind raced with the possibilities of what lay ahead. The wind carried fresh scents of grass and flowers, a stark contrast to the smoke and dust of the mine. Lyra's chest expanded, breathing in freedom, feeling it for the first time. After hours of careful walking, they emerged onto a hill overlooking a wide valley, sparkling with sunlight, rivers winding like silver ribbons, small villages scattered in the distance. Lyra gasped, a sound of awe and disbelief. She had never seen such a world, vast and alive, full of life beyond the cruel walls she had known. Kyle smiled, squeezing her hand. "This is your world now, Lyra, yours to explore and live in." The stranger turned to them, his expression serious yet kind. "Danger may return, but you are stronger now. And you have allies, those who helped you care for you. And the world beyond the forest is not all cruel." Lyra nodded, feeling a spark of courage in her chest. Fear still lingered, but hope outweighed it. The mine and its horrors no longer defined her. She was free, capable, alive. They descended into the valley, the path open, the forest behind them. Lyra noticed the birds singing, children playing in the villages, people moving freely without fear. Her heart ached with relief and joy. Every step felt heavier and lighter at the same time. Weighed with the past but lifted by the future, Kyle guided her toward the nearest village, the stranger walking beside them silently, protective and watchful. As they entered the village, Lyra felt eyes on her, curious, but not hostile. She held Kyle's hand tightly, courage growing. "We have arrived," Kyle whispered. And for the first time, Lyra believed it. Believed she could live without chains, without fear, without pain. She looked at the stranger and smiled, gratitude filling her heart. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling but sure. The sun rose higher, bathing the valley in warmth. Lyra took her first deep breath of freedom, her small hand clutching Kyle's, ready to face the world. Every memory of pain faded slightly, replaced by hope, friendship, and the promise of a new life. She was no longer a slave, no longer a victim. She was a survivor, and the beginning of her journey had just begun. Lyra stepped forward, leaving the forest behind, toward life, toward safety, toward a future filled with hope. She looked back once, then never again. The mine and the fear lost to the past. A new beginning awaited her. Fragile yet strong, terrifying yet beautiful, and she walked into it with courage and heart full of hope.